Hey everyone, welcome to our parenting night. My name is Polly, and my husband John Carlos and I are the youth pastors at Newport Church. And we're not parents in this season, so you can imagine how much kid free time we've had, which has been a lot. And you guys came up in our conversations. So we want to start off this night by saying you're doing a great job. You're amazing. The fact that you are here wanting to be a better parent speaks volumes. And we would love to get to know you. So in the chat room, please leave your name, how many kids you have, what their ages are, and maybe some challenges or questions that you have that we can answer for you. We're about to hear from Daniel Patterson. He is a father, educator, and mental health coach, and he has a ton of experience in helping others. This includes being a secondary education English teacher and assistant principal for several years. He's currently a director of education for a therapeutic high school in Los Angeles. He's got his own coaching firm where he helps youth and parents and educators. And on top of all of that, he has written 2 books on how to parent well. So if you want more information on Daniel, you can go to pattersonperspective.com. So we don't need to tell you guys that the whole world of parenting went to another level, whether or not you were ready for it. But we hope that tonight helps you with some practical ways to help make the best of this season for your family. We are going to be doing a live Q&A over Zoom with Daniel Patterson after this. So if you have any questions, we would love to have you comment them in the chat section. And we're going to go over a few of those questions in our 30-minute Zoom. So take the time now to lean in, to listen, and to learn what you can do to make the best out of this season.
Good evening, Newport Church. I'm Daniel Patterson here with your weekend update. Just kidding. I am in the world headquarters, also known as my garage, where I have set up camp to figure out how to be a dad, a business owner, a teacher, a husband, a churchgoer, all of the things that I used to do, moving every which way, 100 miles an hour, probably like many of you. And figuring out what does it look like, how to do all of those things. Specifically, I'm here to talk to you about education. A little bit about me, if you don't know, I was a middle school and high school teacher for 10 years and an assistant principal for 4 years. And in the last 4 years, I have been working as an educational coach. Essentially, everything that we see in the news right now, when the wheels fall off the wagon, when the systems stop working, when school isn't what it used to be and families need change, they come to me. I also run an alternative high school in West Los Angeles where we focus mostly on independent study model and online school. So just so happened to be that a lot of the things that people need right now in the way of advice for keeping their students motivated, keeping them learning, keeping them less fearful or anxious about what school will look like in the future. Those are all things that I do anyways, and I've been doing for the last 4 years. So I wanted to share some of my most common, let's say our FAQs, the things that get asked the most to me. And they're different for every kid. So I have, in my own home, we have a 2-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 9-year-old. Bro, it's like, do I have Velcro on my shirt? I might have Velcro on my shirt because they are all over us. And I'm sure that's what there are for you. Now, if you have older kids, they might be reverse Velcro, like almost like taking, you know, when you used to play with trains and they're magnetic and you go the opposite ends and you try to put one and then whoa, right? They're just avoiding you like the plague. Some of that might be, let's start with the older kids. School is completely abstract now. It's pretty much asynchronous, meaning it doesn't happen at the same time and definitely not in the same way that it used to. So here you are as a responsible parent trying to parent. You're fearful, like, I don't want my kid to fall behind. What if they don't learn Spanish or math, or what if they're not reading their novels? And so next year when they go back to school, they're going to be behind. Newsflash, they're all going to be behind, right? So I think the easiest way to address this, and the first sort of tenet or rule or suggestion I'm going to give you, applies for everyone. Regardless of age and stage, really, in my opinion, is the concept of a learning block. Now, the older you are in age, in grade, the longer and more frequent the learning blocks should occur. Now, kids thrive in structure. And we're starting to see why, right? If you, why do schools have bell schedule? Why do they move from point A to point B? A lot of those things that people don't maybe like about school, they now miss about school, especially because students thrive in structure. So the concept of a learning block can be a 30-minute period of time, a 45-minute period of time, 60, and an hour and a half. So 30 to 90 minutes, depending on the age and stage. Now, my third grader, for example, her school got mobilized pretty early. So she has a live Zoom call with her teacher every day at 10 o'clock, Monday through Friday. And then she has about 3 hours of schoolwork, right? So her first learning block is that 45 minutes to an hour that she is with her teacher. And then after that, we stop and she takes a break. We have some playtime, some free time, knowing that later in the day, I'm going to put 2 more 1-hour blocks for her to work on school. Now, a lot of people will say, well, Daniel, there is no work. The school's not giving work. Now, this is my second tip, which is to reimagine your concept of learning. So learning in this moment, learning from this moment, being part of the moment is much more than can they do their times tables or did they read To Kill a Mockingbird on time. Those things, those are like benchmark assignments that you may or may not do, and it's not the hill that I want you as a parent to die on. Really, learning can be anything. For my kids, for example, here in the garage, which I have a whiteboard behind me, so you can't see what it looks like, I've made a maker space. So every random piece of anything that I can find is on the table just over there, and they play. So if there is no learning to be done in the conceptual way where we think, well, it has to be signed by a teacher, it needs to be a worksheet, it has to be something that they could turn in, upload, email, think again. Learning can be anything. So try to establish a learning block, learning blocks for your children, and also think outside the box. Now, let's say this. Let's say you have a child that is struggling in a subject. In fact, they hate the subject. And it's creating drama in your home. Tension, tension, tension. Again, dust it off and move on. This is not a time that I'm going to cram algebra down an 8th grader's throat. If algebra creates so much tension and so much stress for the remainder of the day, 24-hour a day together, I would pick my battles very carefully. One thing that's worked well for us is that my daughter gets frustrated with some of her subjects. So we have her do remote tutoring with her older cousin who is 12. He is capable of just even over Zoom or FaceTime, sitting with her while she does it, and she can ask him a question. Do they stay focused the whole time? No. Do they get off task? Yes. Is he the best teacher? No. Does any of that matter? Not at all. Look, I taught 7th grade for 10 years. Those kids are social beings. Kids are social beings. And when you pare down the coming and going of school and lunch and break and passing periods and taking attendance, and then the teacher didn't plan enough, the amount of learning that goes on in school is not as much as we think it is. So when you think about a magic number, I would say the magic number is 3. I would like to see kids learning in some way, shape, or form for 3 hours a day. 3 hours a day. Now, I'm no rocket scientist, but the way that I like to shape it is an hour in the morning, an hour midday, and an hour in the afternoon. Those are to keep a steady pace to the day. Like I said before, kids thrive in structure, and I'm just kind of freestyling here, so forgive me if I'm all over the place, but kids thrive in structure, any age and stage. Adults thrive in structure. I mean, I've been all over the place as like just as a person. All of my structures seem to be evaporated, and I've had to rebuild them. And we really focused on it. And the first few weeks of this quarantine were really challenging, but we've turned a big corner. And I think that's because we figured out how to create a structure that's reliable and doable and a good fit for our family. Now, if you look on Instagram, I love the gram. I love Instagram, Patterson Perspective. You can follow me. But when this started happening, everyone's posting these really grandiose, really, really, really complicated, color-coded charts. Like chart, like it's like almost like IKEA instructions. I want you to think basic. What are some basic, reliable structures that you could put into place for your kids? Because research will tell you, and my experience proves to me as a professional and a father and an educator, that the more structure that kids have that's reliable, and what I mean by reliable is that they can anticipate it, they know what it is, they understand what it looks like, it's not always changing. So we have a schedule. We have our 5-year-old and 2-year-old, right? Their structure is basic. But our third grader, who's 9, and any third grader or up, really, can understand the concept of a schedule. So we have her make her schedule the night before. So when she wakes up in the morning and she has on her closet taped her schedule for the day, the first thing that she asks me is not, what are we doing today? What are we doing today? What are we doing today? That's a very, very frustrating question. I don't know what we're doing today. What are you doing today? Right? And as a teacher, the first thing that kids always ask when they come into any classroom, and I've taught all the way up to seniors in high school, they could be, 4'1", 12-year-old, or a 7'2", 18-year-old in high school. And the first thing they would always ask is, what are we doing today? So as an educator, I would always put the agenda on the whiteboard, right? You put what they're doing, and when they walk in, they can look at it, they can see it. And even if they don't like school, they take a breath, because at least they know what's coming. They know what to anticipate. So I want you to think integrating a reliable, doable schedule. Does that mean it can't change? No, of course it can change. Maybe one day the wheels fall off the wagon. You have to Omaha, you have to switch it up, do what works for your family, but the next day, try to reset. The other thing I recommend doing is having a service-facing stance. What do I mean by service-facing? Service-facing is we have this opportunity, we have this gift of time, and we've heard a lot about that. And a lot of you are like, yeah, you can take your time. I don't want any more time. I want them back in school. I want to go back to work. I want to go back to Angel Game. I hear you. I can't make that different. But I can say that you have a time gift. And if you have a high school student, and I swear from here for the next several years, every student applying to college is going to write an essay on COVID-19, the great quarantine of 2020. And as they should, it's a crazy experience for all of us. But I don't want you just to focus on, or have your kids focus on, what they're losing in this. I could say, yeah, I could choose to focus on my finance. I'm losing money from my clients. I could focus on loss of activities, or loss of normalcy, or loss of structure. Or I can pivot and take a service-facing lean and think about, what can I do to make a difference? Now, with kids, like I said before, one of their learning blocks, let's say they're super school adverse and they're just fighting with you about their schoolwork, fine, don't do it. Replace it with something else. Replace it with something service-facing. So this could be FaceTiming a relative. This could be writing letters to a nursing home. This could be phone banking for a politician. This could be figuring out how to get volunteer for the church, for Newport Church. This could be figuring out what nonprofits need help, maybe. There's a lot of ways to virtually contribute to our society, and thinking of giving kids, empowering them. Kids like to feel like they belong, like they have meaning. And this is what's happening with the kids that I work with, and kids all over the country. we are having the great American identity crisis, from adults to kids. And I am a benefactor of that identity crisis, right? Because here, I'm an entrepreneur, an author, a speaker, a father, a business owner, right? Those are my titles, and I wear them like badges of honor. And I think about my value on what I've accomplished or what I've done. So we have kids that are used to playing baseball and soccer and volleyball and lacrosse and being in the plays and dancing, taekwondo, all of these things, right, that we're used to them doing. And now they don't have those. And things like GPA, like I would bet you a grand sum of money that every public school in California is going to give a pass-fail grade. They're not going to tell you now because they don't want to hear about it and get all the emails. But I bet you they're going to give a pass-fail grade. What does that mean? That means a GPA, this big validator that we give out. Oh, I'm 4.0, right? That doesn't mean anything anymore because nobody has a 4.0. Everyone just passed or you failed. So the ACT, the SAT, these big college entrance exams, they're gone. I was trying to help a junior in high school register for the SAT yesterday. You go into their website, you can't register. The tests have been canceled. Again, kids have been studying for this test for like 2 years. What everyone always wants to know, what did you get on the SAT? What did you get on the ACT? I got nothing. I didn't get a ticket, right? So then they're future tripping. And our kids are having an identity crisis. So by having a service facing lean and allowing them to have a choose your own adventure learning at home with guardrails, of course, this is going to help in that sort of self-identification phase that we're all in. Like, what is my purpose? What is my value from the inside out without the validators that we get? For us as a family, this has been a very interesting time. And working with kids, I still meet around 15 to 20 high school kids over Zoom every week, and the conversations are all the same. And there's generally two types of kids right now. There's the kids that are they love it. They could not be happier to be home, maybe because socially they don't love school. Their peer group isn't friendly to them. They don't miss it. They might miss their activities, but they don't miss being at school. And I want you to pay attention to that. Pay attention to that. Because when all of this comes unstuck and we get back in motion, you don't have to take everything with you. And the way that you were doing school doesn't have to be the way that you do school in the future as a family. Conversely, if your student misses it tremendously, then I would look at searching for ways that they can feel validated without so many exterior validators. Now, it's good to love school. I'm not knocking kids that love school. School, when it works really well. But I would also, talk to them about that. Our kids are in a grieving cycle. Like I said, they've lost a lot of things, access to their friends, their schedule, their routine. And if your house is anything like my house, there's a lot of tension with my wife and I, not between us, like against each other, but between us, financially. Financially, there's a lot of unknown, right? And that can create a lot of stress and a lot of tension. And early on, I found myself as a father taking my stress out on my kids. And it's not their fault, right? It's not their fault. So creating structure for me meant, as a parent, that I also put myself, just like my kids have learning blocks, I have to have work blocks. So my wife and I have alternated when we're working, or who's on first, who's with the kids and who's not with the kids. Because when there is tension in the home, kids don't learn. They don't learn formally. They don't learn informally. In fact, they probably just become very anxious and they isolate. 35% of all kids receive any kind of mental health care at school. Now, I'm not suggesting your kids need mental health care. What I'm saying is, I want you to take this opportunity to check in with your kids. I've talked to a lot of high school parents who are sort of quick to dismiss their kids' feelings. Like, oh, you're just at school, you don't have to worry about bills, you don't have to. And so by not validating or listening to their grief cycle or where they're feeling stuck, that kid is thinking, well, then I'm not going to tell you anything ever again. If you don't care about this, what else don't you care about? So I think that checking in with your kids in this moment is a great way. Now, some kids don't want to talk to you like I told you about earlier. So I would say that looking at things like journaling, art, drawing, painting, building, these are all really good ways for kids to get out their emotional and creative energy, as well as express how they're feeling. And it's a channel to emote. It's a channel to emote. So pen and paper is one kind of learning, or the Chromebook and Google Classroom all have their time and place. But everyone is frozen right now. All learning is frozen right now. So research shows that the #1 indicator for success moving forward, they call it the summer slide, which is the time between school lets out, let's say in June, and picks back up after Labor Day. They call it the summer slide. Kids lose, or they don't retain so much of their information. But the kids that read for 30 minutes to an hour every day, somehow, even though they're not doing any math, no science, no history, no writing really, they just read, they don't experience a summer slide. So modeling reading any kind of reading, they could read the same book over and over again. It could be a graphic novel. I want you to read to them, with them, next to them, keep them reading in some sort, way, shape, or form. If you read to them, if nothing else, then when they go back to school next year, they will not be too far behind. So I'm just kind of wrapping up here. I'm trying to think if there's any other like kind of nugget or frequently asked question that I get. Let's see, learning blocks, motivation. If your kid doesn't want to do anything, right? If the power has completely flipped on its belly and you don't get marked tardy and they won't do their schoolwork, then I want you to think about the incentives that you have in your house and the motivators that you have in your house. Incentives are, what are they doing or what are they getting for following through with their obligations at home? And motivators would be maybe fear of loss, like what do they lose? Traditionally, I'm not a person that likes to dangle the carrot, like, oh, if you get a 4.0, I'll give you $100, because extrinsic motivation doesn't prove to yield long-term results. But this is a temporary situation. And so you have to think creatively, like what is going to make the family run smooth? For us, we're doing Amazon dollars, right? Because everyone wants to buy something on Amazon or Target dollar. And so if they do something above and beyond, if I need Leighton to watch Silas for 20 minutes so I can take a shower, and Caroline, my wife, is working in the garage, it's her turn, then I might offer her 2 Target dollars, right? Something to motivate her above and beyond that then she can cash in, and then we can do a Target drive-through order. Maybe she gets a new book or a new journal or a new set of pens to color with. So, and for your older kids, I would start building a bridge to something long-term. So maybe they are working toward something that they get once this is over, and keep track of it. I mean, again, not like you have to go crazy with a sticker chart, but find something with incentives or motivators that work. And traditionally, kids are either motivated by things or people. And even though your kids might not want to be around you in this quarantine, I think you'll notice that what kids crave more than anything is attention. You're like, how could you need this much attention when we are actually in the same house all day? I don't know why. They want that attention. So whereas my older daughter is motivated by things, my middle daughter, Ro, she could not care less about your things. She is motivated by people. So that is one-on-one time. That is a special activity with mom or dad. So you have to figure out and identify and hone in on each child in your home and parent them differently. They might have different schedules. They might have different expectations. They might have different struggles. And that's okay, because even though they're from the same home, like our 2 daughters could not be more different. And then there's our 2-year-old who is Captain Velcro, crawling up the walls, tons of energy. Give me your address, I'll send them over. Just kidding. So anyways, anything else that you can think of? We're going to go on our Zoom call now. Hop over. Let's talk. Let's just Q&A. Fire them off. I run a lot of webinars with parents lately, and I'll have spitfire questions. I can give you personal advice. I can give you general advice. I can expand on any of these topics. So if you want any help, join me in the Zoom room right now. Okay, Newport Church, I'll see you soon.